Welcome. I am marketing expert and business coach Melissa Kellogg-Lewick, and this is the Doing Business Like a Woman podcast, where we are exploring and teaching you how women are reinventing the way business is done and money is made to help you create greater impact and financial freedom, one business at a time. Well, hello, ladies. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. I've been doing well. We got through Halloween and here we are starting November, and I'm so excited. This is my favorite time of the year. Not only am I a lover of the holiday season, but I'm a planner. So I love this time of year because I get to think about planning, like planning out the new year. And I just love all of that. And one thing I don't love about planning and that I have always felt like there's been a disconnect for myself in a lot of times, and also for a lot of women that I work with, a disconnect between the setting the goals and the learning about planning and laying out the whole strategic plan and then actually doing it and putting it into motion. And so it's always been something I have thought about, like, why do we fail to implement sometimes? Even though we really want to get to the goal, we really want to do the things that we have planned, and why don't we do them? And so this is something I've kind of been nerding out on for the past 6 months. And really what I'm learning is that, put simply, the reason why we don't always follow through on our plans is because we're acting and planning from our past and from our present. And it's almost like we're trying to push our butts up the hill to like find the motivation to push ourselves forward and do all the things. And what I'm learning is that the latest brain science is actually telling us that acting from our future and knowing who we are and planning who we're going to be in the future and acting from that place and planning and goal setting from that place will literally pull us forward to taking the actions that we need to take and making our achieving of our goals even more inevitable. And so it's really exciting. It's so interesting. The future self work is something that I've been interested in and studying for years. I think it all started with Tara Moore. I don't know if you've ever read her book, Playing Big. It's an amazing book, highly recommend. And she has an exercise in there, and it's an exercise I've taken clients through. I've actually studied under Tara Moore and in her Coaching Way program. And so she has a visualization exercise, and she talks a lot about future self. And I've always loved that. But even still, it hasn't really hit home for me the way that this work has been hitting home as a result of studying Dr. Benjamin Hardy's work. You may have heard of him if you've been in my world at all. I've talked a lot about his work, the first being his book 10X is Easier Than 2X, is his most recent book with Dan Sullivan. And that has been amazing. And then his book before that, it's called Be Your Future Self Now, has also been a really great study in this concept. And so as I'm learning these things and putting them into practice, it's just been blowing my mind. And I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface. So of course I want to share it with you and share everything that I'm learning, and hopefully and teach it to you in a way that you can implement what this future self field of study is telling us. And so I love the way Dr. Hardy has really applied science to the whole concept. I think there was something missing, a disconnect for me in the purely like personal development space. And so knowing that the science and how the research is actually pointing to the effectiveness that planning and acting from our future is much more effective than the traditional, acting and planning from our past. And so just, I'll explain that a little more. Hopefully I'm not nerding out too much. So in the field of psychology, a little history lesson, from the 1800s to like the late 1990s. And this is all from Dr. Hardy's book, Be Your Future Self Now. He talks about how the traditional view of psychology, the traditional theory psychologists had is that we are basically a product of our past, right? And that's why we do all this work in therapy around healing our past, and that we act from our past, and it's because of our past that all these things are happening to us and why we do the things we do. Well, there's also emerged a new theory created by a group that calls themselves positive psychologists, or it's not a group, it's a school of thought that has questioned that theory and really started studying the impact of our future and planning for our future has on our behavior. And so what they're finding in their research, and this is a quote from Dr. Hardy's book, he says, research now shows that a person's past does not drive or dictate their actions and behaviors. Rather, we are pulled forward by our future. And I just love that thinking. It's almost like a magnet, right? Like it's a magnetic field of our future pulling us toward it. I love that imagery. And really the science is now backing the importance of connecting with our future and setting goals for our future and intentionally making plans about who we want to be and how we want to be living in the future. And when we do that, that future just pulls us toward it, right? It's so cool. So I think this is the perfect things to be talking about in this season of planning and goal setting. So I'm going to be incorporating what I'm learning with what I already know and what I have practiced in the past around goal setting and creating strategic plans and goals and milestones and all of that. And so what I think about is all of the strategic doing, right? All the planning and goal setting is like the strategic doing in 2024 to achieve our goals. We have that part. But what I'm going to invite you and what I am practicing myself this year is that we first create a plan for strategic being, like deciding who we want to be in the future and connecting with her and creating our goals and our plans and our milestones and all the way down to what we're doing every week, every day. We create those plans from our future self after, intentionally deciding who we want to be in our future before we're deciding what we're doing. And so I believe, and I've seen this happen in my own life, is that this is the most powerful way to be achieving our goals and making them inevitable and bridging that gap between learning and making all the plans and actually doing them, right? So I'm going to teach you exactly how I have created a process that we're going to use to do this. I'm going to be teaching here on social media and here on my podcast. So the Doing Business Like a Woman podcast, and in my annual Envision 2024 event, where I have a 5-day virtual goal setting, strategic planning event that I host each year in December. So I want to make sure every single one of you that wants to be a part of this is ready to hit the ground running on January 1st, and that we are in touch with our future and just allowing her to just pull us right to her. Right? Rather than trying to push our asses up the hill all the time, which is what it feels like sometimes when we're trying to find that motivation or that consistency. And so that is what I'm to share with you today. And what I'm studying and what I'm seeing is just revolutionary, and it's so fun. And just a quick example of how I'm applying this in my life that you might want to consider using is and see how it works for you. Just as we're going through this process, it might be totally fun. So every night before I go to bed, I'll spend like 3 to 5 minutes listing out my 3 wins for the day. Just any 3 wins, can be personal, professional, whatever. What are my 3 wins? And then I also then make a list of my 3 wins for tomorrow. And then I close up that journal. I put it on my nightstand and I leave it there. I lay my head down on the pillow feeling like a winner because I've had 3 wins today. And then I get up the next morning and go about my day. And then when I get back to that journal at night, I'll go back and I'll look at those 3 wins that I wrote down at that time for tomorrow, right? So envisioning my future. And it has been amazing, like mind blowing. Even though I just wrote them quickly, closed the book, the majority of the time, those 3 wins actually come true. And that's just one little example of how this future self thinking and acting has shown up in my life. And so that has just been blowing my mind. And it's not like I don't make a list and like put it on my desk and check it off or anything. I just write those 3 wins for tomorrow down, and inevitably, most of the time they happen. It's crazy. So fun. So I want to bring you along on this journey. So join me on social media, here on the podcast, and we're going to get into all the things. And I want to really help you to achieve your goal for 2024. All right, let's do it. Yay. All right, my friends, I will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Ladies, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are nearing our 100th episode. Woohoo! I would love to hear from you in celebration of our 100th episode. I am wondering if you would share with me a question you would love to ask me, or a topic you'd love to hear me cover on the podcast. And I'd love to hear how this podcast has impacted or served you over the last 2 years and 100 episodes. So I have a really cool new app that I'm trying. It's called SpeakPipe. And so there's a link to SpeakPipe in the episode description and show notes that you can just click on, and it'll take you to SpeakPipe, and you can ask a question or suggest a topic that you'd love to hear me cover on the podcast, and share with us how this podcast has impacted or served you. So you can visit www.speakpipe.com/doing business like a woman podcast, and record your voice message. And we may even feature you on the podcast. Yay! Thank you.